Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time you're watching this. But I'm here today with Valerie, and we are with Defining Image of Photographs is her business. We're actually in her studio today, and it is awesome. The lighting here is great. She's got some old lights. So, Val, tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do?
All right, we started in October 2007.
Okay.
And basically, so I do real estate, event photography, headshots, and high school seniors. And then like just single portrait people, like, Mrs. Thurston County.
Okay.
So, just some, I don't, do kids anymore. Mostly work with adults, but real estate's my bread and butter.
Okay. So mainly that's where you focus?
Well, just on the group I said, photography is so like vast.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of different areas, and really you have to specialize in it. And so when I first started, everyone was like, find your niche market. And it's like, what is it? So I tried everything. I tried boudoir. I tried newborn photography. Seniors. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And then as I got really busy, I was like, I can't do this. I can't families, all of it. It's like, I really have to narrow this down to what makes me happy and what am I really good at. And I thought, and where don't I make money? Where do I make more money versus, the return on investment. So I got rid of boudoir because you have to specialize in that. That has to be your thing that you do. I'm a boudoir photographer because...
Explain really quick what boudoir, I've never heard the term, so I'm not sure what boudoir is.
Okay, so boudoir is sexy photos of women.
Oh, okay.
They're not nudes, but they're just like lingerie shots, and typically women will get them done on Valentine's Day for their husbands and stuff like that. So
almost like a pinup, but
yes, exactly like a pinup. And then it was funny because I did a lady and she was overweight and she loved her pictures. So then that was my clientele. I had a lot of really overweight women coming because they felt really beautiful. A lot of psychology in it, but it took a long time. And there's just so much to it. And I thought, I don't have the space. I didn't have what I needed to do that and do it really well. Whatever I do, I want to do really well. And then newborns was another one. It's a lot of time. And it really is, it's a specialty,
I bet trying to get them to focus to get a good picture has to be a little struggle.
Well, you make them go to sleep. So you do it, you just get them, I could make a baby go to sleep like that. Because, you make that womb sound.
Now I know where to bring my kids.
No, I don't do newborns anymore. So
I meant for babysitting.
Oh, yeah. I had babies, throw up. I mean, and stuff. I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore because, there's all those little froggy pictures they do of babies. And it was like, that's a little scary to me. That's somebody's child and you're manipulating them. It's like, I don't want to do that either. So I don't know. And then real estate found me. So I started doing the real estate photography and I love it. I meet a lot of people, and then it was the corporate headshots and portraits of people. Oh, and we do big events, military balls.
Okay.
Baseball and high school seniors. So, and it all just kind of works together nicely because you do real estate, you have agents, realtors, and they need headshots. So
nice. That's
kind of how I set up the studio. So I love what I do.
So how did you get started in photography? How did you get into this passion of yours?
So it was my son. He was a senior in high school at River Ridge, and he was taking photography, and he couldn't get enough of it. He walked around with a camera taking pictures, and he was pretty good. And then it was senior picture time, and he goes, well, why don't you just take my senior pictures? And it was like, I'm not taking your senior pictures. It's like I wanted good senior pictures, but I don't know. I picked up a camera. I had a little Fuji camera, and it was with my son. He got me into it, and I couldn't stop at that point. So I bought up my first DLSR, and I clicked it, and it was like it's something shot through my veins. It was crazy. So I was actually in school studying medical transcription. And I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked learning terminology and all that. But I kept having to file for extension because I kept taking pictures. And my husband goes, "We wouldn't be paying for extensions if you would put that down and you focus." And my brother-in-law goes, "That's her career right there."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I never dreamed that that would really be my career. And honestly, here it is 13 years later, and I love it more than I did back then.
Excellent.
And I studied everything I could. You know, I really did. I won a scholarship to go to Evergreen School of Professional Photography. It's no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned a lot there, and I served on Professional Photographers of Washington leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I was the membership chairman. I did that for 4 years. I was back in the print salon during judging so I could learn. You know, always went to the spring conferences, entered my prints. See that martini picture up there? The ribbon on it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we would enter prints and be judged against our peers. So I learned a lot about what it takes to do it, to be a photographer, and I still learn. So I'm very passionate about.
What was your favorite shoot that you ever did?
Oh, geez, I should have pre-thought this. Well,
That's why I didn't give you the questions ahead of
I
time.
know,
I wanted you
right?
to hit them on the fly.
Well, not necessarily a shoot, but it was a project.
Okay.
And it was just very recently, and when I think about it, I still get goosebumps. A guy got a hold of me and said, "Can you create something for me?" And I was like, "Well, you know, let's meet, let's talk." And basically, he had 25 years of bad photos from his marriage. And he was like, it's 25 years. I want to know if you can put these together on something huge, like 50-inch metal, you know, just create it. Well, I got all his pictures and I was like, these are terrible because they were like black, you know, and he wanted it in black and white. But, you know, think about 25 years back, the quality of a picture. Mm-hmm. And so some of them were scanned in and I was like, oh my gosh. And this was an expensive project. Mm-hmm. And I really had to listen intently to him and what he wanted. And so I was like, oh, the quality of these pictures. And then I sat and thought about it. And it was like, I'm going to make these look old. I'm going to work with them looking old, basically. Mm-hmm. You know, so I put a white rim around them so it looked like one of those old snapshots.
Okay, yeah.
You know, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how we went with it. Well, I get it all finished. And he comes to the studio and he had to sneak to be here because you know how you find my phone, and he's like, how am I ever going to explain where I'm at? So he comes and he just stares at this project, and I worked really hard on it, and he goes, it's perfect. And so I was like, oh, good. And so I get it all done. The first one I get is broken. It comes in the corners bent, and I'm like on a deadline because we have to deliver it. So I get a new one. And then I tell him he can come pick it up. And I go, do you want me to gift wrap it? And he said yes. And then I realized I don't know how to wrap presents. I'm the worst wrapper in the world. And I was like, why did I say that? It seems so natural to do that piece of the service because it was for his wife, their 25th anniversary. It's in a giant box. Mm-hmm. And I panicked. So I ran to Hobby Lobby and I probably spent just on the wrapping, it was over $50 on wrapping stuff. And again, it just seemed natural. I wasn't thinking about profit. I just wanted it to be perfect. So we wrapped it and it was spectacular. And then I told the guy, you got to come get it. It didn't fit in his car. So I said, how about we deliver it? And then my brain is like swirling around and I'm just like going, how can I make this so cool? Because it's so romantic. I knew this man at this point was the most romantic guy to do this. So I said, what's your wife's favorite song? And he told me. And then I said, okay. And then I asked him, would you write a love letter? Mm-hmm. Can you write your wife a love letter for me? And I will read it from you. And he was like, oh, he got so excited. So he writes this letter. And I, burnt the edges of it and stuck it in this black folder. We dressed just like the wrapping paper, the same colors. We wore black slacks and, we just were there. I cleaned my Cadillac really good. And I had this letter. Well, as I'm typing out the letter, because I'm going to give it to her. It was a Queen song, Love of My Life. That was the song. So we were dressed up. My husband has on a tie. Midori's dressed up. We all matched. The package is wrapped. It was incredibly beautiful. I even put like a brooch on it so she could keep the brooch. So we pull up and I have all the windows open in the car and the song is just blaring out of the window like a serenade. And so I knock on the door. Wait, can I just back up a second about his love letter? As I was reading his love letter, I was bawling.
Oh, wow.
It was the most beautiful sentiment. I had to have everyone read the letter. Everybody bawled. It was like it was every woman's dream to get that letter, from him. So anyways, we pull up and I ring the doorbell. He knows he doesn't exactly know how it's going to go down. Well, I don't either because I wing a lot of stuff, but I had it played out really well in my head.
Right.
So she opens the door and I just stared and smiled at her and she was looking like, what? She goes, that's my favorite song. And I started interviewing her. I was like, today is something special. What is today to you? And she goes, it's my wedding anniversary. And then right as she said that, my husband gets out of the car with 24 roses and walks up and she starts crying, and then I'm trying to hold it together because I have to read this letter without stumbling. And I pretty much memorized it because I had read it so many times. I had it memorized. So I start reading her the letter and she was losing it. Her husband was standing behind her and I could see him out of the corner of my eye. The pride. And looking at like that love, and I read it. I handed her the folder with the letter in it. She had roses, the folder, and we said, well, we'll be right back. And we went and pulled this big package out, and we carried it in and set it in, and we said happy anniversary and left. Wow. It was like I get chills thinking about that. So it wasn't so much about a session I took, but that
still. Putting a project like that together is just a lot of work.
It flowed out so naturally. And then I did go back and do a family picture for them, but the husband said it was her birthday was coming up. He goes, can you make on metal that letter?
Oh yeah.
So they have the big picture I made above their fireplace, and sitting on an easel is a big metal matching thing with the letter written out.
Oh wow!
It turned out it was amazing.
That's impressive.
So is that a long answer? So
no, that's a great project.
It was fun.
I mean, just listening to you talk, I can tell that you put a lot of passion into all the work that you do. So that's pretty cool. And then so that was a project. What about a picture? Like what? A singular picture. I know that's hard, but a singular picture. What would be your favorite picture that you ever took of somebody or something?
Of something. Okay. Well, I guess what would make a great moment is at the Professional Photographers of Washington, when we enter prints into competition, they're judged, and it's like you could win Best Portrait of a Child, or whatever you could win, and you would go on to a national level. So I didn't think anything of it. I didn't really. At the time, I was pretty new, so just if my prints hung, I scored high enough that they would hang on the wall for exhibition, I was a winner. But one year I had entered, and I'm sitting there, and I was kind of like just watching, not expecting anything, and it said in the nominees for Best Portrait of a Child, and there's 4, and my picture came up, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I'd won right there in my own head. I just expected it to hang on the wall. I never expected out of it. It was Washington, like California, Montana. I never expected to have a picture of that caliber with these amazing people that I looked up to, mentors. It was like, what? And so then when the 3 went away and mine was there, literally like lost it. And I was sitting next to the woman. We can have a mentor. And so there's usually someone with more experience than you. They cannot touch your work. They can only suggest something you do. You have to do the work yourself.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there with her, and I look at her. She's older and been in business for a long time. And my girlfriend, one of my girlfriends, was the president of the Professional Photographer Washington at the time. So she's announcing it, and I had to go up and get the trophy, but I couldn't get up because I was like so not together.
Kind of weak in the knees
I
feeling.
was, and it was pretty funny. So the lady that was helping me said, "Sweetheart, go get your trophy." So I went up there, and I was emotional. And Bonnie says to me, "Are you crying?" I go, "No." It was a joke because I was so crying to get that trophy. And I was going back to the room when it was over, and my arms were full, and I dropped stuff. And a past president was helping me, and he goes, "Why are you so emotional?" And I go, "Because winning that made me feel like I'm one of you. Like that was my door to being a professional, and that's all I ever wanted was to be one of you." And he looked at me very puzzled, and he said, "You've always been one of us." And I was just, so the perception other people have of you and what you need to say, "I am of that level," you know, because there was no way that I was just going to be amongst this crowd of professionals and say, "I'm one of you." There was no, there was no way. But that was kind of, that picture is really dear to me. You know, the best portrait of a child. Where is it? Is it in here? I don't think it's in here. Oh, here it is.
Is this the one?
Not this one, but it's back here. It's this one.
Oh, wow.
It's really pretty.
That is impressive.
I probably worked on this for...
How do you get the feathers like that?
Exactly. So I don't know if you can't see it, but there's a little stroke line and the feathers are over it. But this picture I put in the garbage, and because I didn't like it at first, and then I revisited the trash and pulled it out.
And then
And this was the one that won. It's a little beat up now, but it's just really beautiful.
That's cool.
But I probably worked on this for over 20 hours.
No, jeez.
Just like really working on it. And the lady that came for the session, of course, we have to name them all. When you enter them, you name them. That is the hardest thing. So I reach out to the clients and say, "Can you help me name this?" And so it was her grandmother who named it, and it's called Innocence of an Angel.
Oh, lovely.
Right?
Yeah,
it's very cool. So
I love the look of her face. That's an awesome picture.
She was sitting in a planter. Like a pot that you put flowers in.
Yeah.
She was kind of sitting in there, and then I changed it. So I just like kind of composed.
A little.
Yeah, I composed it differently and was working on it and had my mentor working. So
yeah,
that's probably
color tones are.
Isn't it pretty?
Everything blends awesome.
I like it.
So, with what you have going on today, who would you say that your ideal client is? Who do you work with now, and who would you like to work with in the future?
Well, realtors. Primary. That's what I do every week. That's like I get an actual paycheck every week going to photograph houses.
That's nice.
And then I do, headshots for like Claris Eye Center. So, I work with adults.
Because photography can be feast and famine some of the times, depending on what you have going on, right?
Unless you shoot real estate. I probably shouldn't say that. I don't want people getting in my gig. I would say I found my niche market, finally.
Excellent.
That I finally found it, and then there's stuff in between. We shoot South Sound baseball.
Oh, nice.
But yeah. And I suppose if somebody said to me, "Can you take pictures of my little kid?" Not if there's 3 of them together. I love little kids, but I don't have the patience for when they're all together.
Right.
It's hard to get them all to pay attention to you, but when I have one child, like at baseball, I just get down on their level and talk to them, and they'll connect with me, and then we can make art like that. But yeah, as far as the question, it's, I work with adults, realtors, so there's always pretty much a feast with that.
Excellent. And so now I've heard from Valerie, and so if you want to connect with Valerie, just reach out to her. We'll have links. Do you have a LinkedIn account?
I do.
Okay. So we'll put links into the comments below of how you can reach out to Valerie. And now that you're connected with me, now you're connected with Valerie, and we'll go from there. See ya.